Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hi, I'm Jeremy, and with Terri, we're the co-CEOs of Harvest Earnings. And you can be a fly on the wall as we talk about business practices we love and even more fun, the ones we don't.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Terri.
So today I want to talk about a problem that we have that occurs in cocktail parties, and it also occurs in LinkedIn, oddly, two very different locations. And that is our firm does not have a label that fits. So the label that we get is one that we really don't like. But so at cocktail parties, people will say, "What do you do?" And the really easy, quick, but inaccurate message is to say we're management consultants. And LinkedIn practically forces us to say that, because when you have to say at least one service you provide, and there is no service listed, and you can't freeform that really fits us,
Right.
which is mind-boggling. And there is no other. But, I was thinking about this the other day. So, I have
If we could just put in the word anti right before.
Yeah. So, I have a son who's a software engineer and a daughter who's an actor. And, if somebody says at a cocktail party, "What do you do?" That's easy for people to understand. It's not easy for those professions, to actually do those things. But it's easy to understand. Everybody has a context for it. Everybody uses software. Everybody knows what an actor is. So the first question is, well, what are you in? And, what are you working on? And Joey can say, I work on, the cloud. And then often that's the end of that, right? It's not like he can really describe the gory details, but at a high level, people get it. And if we say management consulting, that is so inaccurate that it's really frustrating to us. So we want to talk a little bit about the elephant in the boardroom, which is that top of the house often hires management consultants for reasons that we do not think are good. Go.
Okay. Well, I probably should say, before I castigate and criticize management consultants, that I was one. So for 5 years, worked at McKinsey, loved being there. It was great for me. But the reason I left to form what you and I now do, which turned that whole thing upside down, is I don't think it did anything for clients. And the whole premise of management consulting is that, well, these smart people are going to come in and they're going to see the same data we have access to, and they're going to interview the same people we have access to, but they're going to create these recommendations that are transformative, and they're going to grow our earnings and make us best in class. And there's a big deck. And then if you actually did an audit of how much earnings grew and what the payback was on these expensive, firms, you would discover it was a very poor investment. And the weird
I think, sorry. We want to talk about the reasons they get hired. And just to be clear, you're not saying, and we're not saying that management consultants are bad. There are valid reasons to hire either extra resources to help you do something, or expertise that you truly don't have internally, right?
Right. But that is, I would say, a smallish slice of the entire pie. And the reason, therefore, this is kind of an elephant in the boardroom is large companies are spending large amounts of money on these things that the board, in effect, is approving. They don't know them specifically, but generally. And it's not just that it's expensive, it actually harms the company, but to start with, why is it done? I think it's done because executives really want to succeed. They really want to improve the company. And they feel they've done everything they can think of doing to use the knowledge and the people they have. And now they're frustrated. And here comes in a management consultant that's been used by other famous companies. And the people that represent those management consulting firms are smart and nice and seem dedicated as well and also
Sit
want
on
to
the
help.
board.
Yes, often sit on the board. That's a real leg up. And it feels like, okay, I don't really want to do this, but it's kind of my, this is what I've got left to do. I've tried everything else, and I don't want to not do something that is out there that might help me. So it's a little bit of cry for help.
Yeah, I think also is it's just considered okay and not an executive team's job to have all the answers. So bringing in expertise is approved and allowed and accepted. Um, so nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM, the old saying. So bringing in a firm like this, or a big traditional management consulting firm, is accepted and it's okay and it's not looked at as a weakness. Whereas getting all the ideas and the information out of their own employees absolutely is looked at as their job and a weakness if they can't do it.
Right.
But we know that that's very, very wrong. It's really hard to. Go ahead.
And in fact, it's not only not viewed as a weakness when you bring in one of these firms. It's viewed as you're willing to say, well, I don't know everything about what all of our competitors are doing and other people in the industry are doing. And I'm willing to be open-minded and flexible and learn from the best that's out there in the world. And that's what this consultant will bring me. So it actually
The annoying thing to us is one of the things we have clients do is interview new hires that have come from other places. So that's never done. That is not just done as a routine thing. Yet bringing in outside expertise because they've been in another company, oh, that's all good.
Right. Well, and there's an irony, which is a lot of these senior execs, particularly, but even more junior ones in a large company, are often perfect candidates to be recruited by traditional consulting firms so that they can tout the expertise they have in this field. And then they go off and get paid by other companies to share what their own company is to a large degree, let's say, ignoring or not using as fully as it could.
Yeah. And yet these firms get hired, every day, and companies spend huge money, and it has a major morale impact. So you were a consultant pretty much your whole life before we did this, other than that cute little stint in state government. But I, on the other hand, was a banker for a long time. I can never remember exactly. I should do the math sometime. I think it was around 16 years before I jumped ship. And as you'll recall, in the early days, almost everybody that we worked with were consultants. And then it all morphed to people with industry experience. And that's what these people are getting. They're getting junior consultants who haven't had the life experience that the people in their company have had. And by life, I mean work life experience.
And
But
let's be clear that morphed because you and I made it morph. we started out with this model of people we knew in consulting and realized that that's not the right model.
Right, because people who have managed a P&L understand it far better than the newly minted MBA, who's maybe got a couple years under their belt. Yeah, and we're not saying they're smart and that they don't have value to give. It's just that it's frustrating to us that companies so often turn to them at such a detriment to the company's financials, but also to the company's employees. It is a morale sinker. What word am I looking for? It hurts morale.
Yeah. I mean, people inside companies completely resent almost all the time. I mean, if the consultant's being brought in order to get senior management approval for something that some team already wants, then they're happy with that. It's a waste; it shouldn't be needed, but they're happy. But otherwise, they generally very much resent this, the famous adage of ask a consultant what time it is, and they ask to borrow your watch. People, I mean, I remember we would interview people and we would get them to do little exercises and data analytics and stuff, and then we would take it and go into our secret little room, whip it up into recommendations, and then we would meet with the CEO or the senior execs, and everyone else was outside the door. And gee, when it got approval for our recommendations, how did they feel about it? Not very good. It was either like, we told you all this, it's ours, or my God, did you get that wrong? Weren't you listening to what we were saying? And
Yeah.
so, they're oddly, their desire to often sabotage those recommendations rather than be invested in making them work,
Yeah. So I remember one of our colleagues teaching me the three things that a consultant says to their client.
Oh.
You suck. Here's how you suck. Here's how to suck a little less.
Exactly.
That is feel good.
Going off to the next place. Yeah. Well, I remember we did a project at McKinsey that was this kind of sales model thing, and nobody was using it. And so the CEO brought us back in to convince everybody to use the McKinsey model. And I jokingly, but as you like to say, kidding on the square, because I also meant this somewhat seriously, I said, yes, your mother. Here's my recommendation. Change the name. Stop calling it the McKinsey model. His name was Bob, the CEO. Call it Bob's model. People might be much more inclined to use Bob's model and not want to tell Bob why they weren't using Bob's model than, oh yeah, that McKinsey model.
Yeah. No,
it was a joke, but still.
Right. No, you always like to say we don't like being told what to do, not by our parents, not by our boss, and certainly not by an outside consultant.
Right,
but beyond that, I mean, it's frustrating to us because we know that executives, managers feel bad that they think they can't get the information and act on it out of their people. And act on, our favorite saying, if only HB knew what HB knows, we'd be 3 times as productive. But we also know that it's really not easy. And, full disclosure, this is the service that we provide. But people feel like, oh, this is my job. We hear it all the time. This is my job to do this. Well, I mean, don't you need tools to do your job? And there are tools out there, not just us, obviously, but what's not going to do it is just, the suggestion box or whatever. But so they go, as you said the other day, they go, 180. So instead of trying to get good stuff from their teams that know best, I mean, we're not talking about specialized expertise that you need to go outside to get. Sure, do that. But they just go from, nope, we can't get it from the employees, or we've gotten everything we're going to get from the employees. So 180, let's bring in an outsider to tell us what to do. Go ahead.
I think another reason people bring them in is we know not just organizations, people in general are very conflict averse. And it's very hard to have honest, open, transparent, fact-based conversations. Not impossible. A lot of that happens, but a lot of those conversations don't happen. And the idea of bringing in this third party who does not feel, I mean, this was McKinsey's big selling point back in the 30s and 40s when it first started going. Marvin Bauer, the creator of it, his idea was, we're going to be like lawyers. He was a lawyer at a big white shoe firm in the 30s.
White shoe firm?
Yeah, that's what they were called. And very traditional. And the idea is that a lawyer can say, you pay me by the hour. I'm going to tell you what the answer is. If you don't like it, too bad. I have set up resistance to kowtowing to what you want to hear. I'm just going to tell you like it is. And there's some benefit to that. And so consultants can come in, not feel like they have to kowtow to the politics, though so often they still do, because it turns out the way they're billed is to get the next project. So that doesn't really quite work anymore. But it makes it feel like, oh, well, if McKinsey says it, I guess we all have to be on board now. And it absolves people from having the conflict that they really do need to have to get resolved in a much more fact-based, open, transparent way.
Yeah, and to your point of they're looking for the next deal, I don't think we want to go into the gory details, but John Oliver did a scathing expose.
We did indeed.
And we know this happens. So anyway, this is why we don't like to be called management consultants, but we don't have a good label at all. We've tried through the years to describe what it is we do that doesn't either sound silly or reduces it to just too small of a thing. So maybe we should say you can call us Al, but don't call us management consultants. Call Simon.
Indeed, and he was called Al, but that's a whole another story.
That is a whole other story. I think we should probably get back to work.
Okay.
Although usually when I say that, you go, "Oh well," but there's one more thing I want to say.
There is one more thing. I'll say it. Because to our dear audience, she can always edit me out if she wants. And that is one of the reasons I said earlier that if you did an audit of all these different traditional consulting gigs that have been done over the years, they wouldn't show a great net return on the investment, is because they're not actually set up to be single-mindedly focused personally on growing the earnings of a company. Part of the original model was to distance themselves so they would have independence. But what's happened now is they've sort of lost that personal zeal to care about growing earnings in a sustainable way. And that would explain, for example, having this leverage model where you have all these junior people. That works great.
Can you not hear the sirens going off in my background? No, it's the first Tuesday of the month, so the emergency sirens are being tested right now.
I thought that was the orchestra playing to tell me my time is up.
Yes, get off the stage. Your thank you speech is over.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.